We are sort of turning students off from learning because they are not enjoying it. We know that we learn best when we're enjoying things.
Parents are working nowadays. Mother is also working and father is also working. So we start compensating that time, expensive gifts, toys, luxury travels.
We know as a species we need to connect, we need connection to
Yeah.
feel a sense of validation and a sense of grounding and a sense of belonging. We remove that connection and substitute it with physical things, laptops, phones. You're missing out on a whole layer of fundamental basics that humans need to thrive and survive.
I would not say that children are getting addicted to mobile phones. I think parents also are getting addicted to mobile phones and reels and scrolling shorts.
So the first thing I'd say is I wouldn't be giving a mobile phone to a child under 11, I would say, because I think it's just too early still. In England, of course, our children go to secondary school at 11 and 12 years old. So I think that's a reasonable age for more generally sort of keeping them safe as well, because there is an element of needing some device to perhaps keep in contact with your family.
Welcome, John, all the way from United Kingdom. John is a head teacher and global consultant. And today we are going to talk about the mental well-being and child holistic development till age 10, John. Welcome. And how's the weather out there, John? Let's start with that.
Lovely. Thank you for inviting me, Reena. It's lovely to see you. It's not too bad, actually. It's quite warm, but we're okay with that. It's okay.
Great. So, John, tell me, like we here in India consider academics as very important part of development. So
Mhm,
up till age 5, when by the time the child turns 5,
mhm,
make sure the child knows ABCD,
mhm,
knows maybe 1 to 100, can
mhm,
make some two words, like can join two words and make a word out of it. So what do you
mhm.
think up till age 5? Is it important for the child to learn life skills and gross motor skills and fine motor skills, or they should focus on academics? Because there is a huge competition when I talk about India. Like the child must be knowing by the age of 5 a complete ABCD and 1 to 100 in many schools, not all the schools. In many schools, we follow this concept. What is your insight on that?
Well, that's a really good question because I think all countries are challenged by this, the balance between excellent academics
Yeah.
and good well-being.
Yeah.
And I think as an educator for 25 years, they have to go hand in hand in partnership. So you're absolutely right. Children will need to learn the basics of counting and reading and writing because they are life skills.
Yeah.
But underpinning that, we need play. We need children learning how to interact with each other. We need to learn and help young people learn to fail and to understand what failure is and how you can pick yourself up. So, from a very young age, it's incredibly important not to get too stressed about the academic side of it, but see this as a lifelong journey. And some young people will learn academics a little bit further along, some might learn it sooner. But what everyone needs to learn is that ability to relate to others, play, be creative, understand right from wrong, moral values, I would say. So, in answer to your question, I think up to the age of 5, yes, there is some pressure that can already be starting. But what we don't want young people to do is to be switched off from learning, whatever learning might be, because of course it could be something not academic, it could be learning music or dance or whatever. So we want children to enjoy learning. And so we've got to get that real fine balance between the sort of academic achievement and their well-being. So yeah, it's a really good question, actually. Really good one. Yeah.
Indeed, you work with both the part of the world. Like you have been to India, you are also working in United Kingdom. So, what is the one difference that you find that Indians, like as Indian students, they are doing better, or maybe
Mhm.
they are doing differently than children in the London, or other way around, vice versa?
Yeah. That's a really good question as well, because I really enjoy visiting India and I love visiting schools, particularly, and seeing a real passion for learning. And I suppose my what's quite noticeable straight away is there's a real emphasis on academics and reading, writing, maths, science. They seem to be the sort of ones, and computing. They seem to be placed sort of higher, if you like, on a pedestal to some of the other sort of learning curriculum subjects. And that's sort of where there's a difference between Indian education and education in the United Kingdom. Because yes, of course, we want children in England to be able to read, write, and do maths, but there's also an understanding that children need to learn how to be creative. They need to learn to problem solve. They need to have these 21st century skills. And I think what's noticeable from what I've seen is that there is clearly a desire and an appetite in India for families to make sure their children achieve well in school.
Yeah.
Great. And that's fantastic. But it can't come at the extent of missing out on geography, history, music, design and technology, computing, personal social health, physical education, music, all of those, what I would call curriculum subjects that provide an all-round child. And let's not forget, it may well be that some children find maths difficult. That's fine. That's okay. They might find writing challenging. That's okay. But they might find music is their absolute beating heart. They are in a different place with music. So I'm always very interested as an educator. Why would we say that that's not good enough? Whereas it could be that actually some things are just as important as others. So, in answer to your question, there are similarities because we all want our young people to manage 21st century skills, but there's a noticeable difference, I think, between curriculum and knowledge that we want our children to acquire in England.
Thank you for answering that. But John, I really want to know, like, nowadays we have this competitive environment right from the beginning,
Mm.
and fear of missing out, like FOMO. If that
Hmm.
child is doing better in science and math, then my child also should be doing. If that
Hmm.
child is has joined so many activities, like a
Hmm.
dance class or a tennis class or a swimming class, my child should also do so many activities. But
Mm.
how should parents be understanding what is the unique quality that my child holds, and how
Hmm.
we should be promoting that particular quality rather than chasing something that the child doesn't like? What is your
Mm.
opinion on that?
Yeah, that's really important to answer because I think you have to come back and think, so why would parents be wanting that? What is what is them making them want that sort of competitive nature of education? Um, and my worry with that is then we are sort of turning students off from learning because they are not enjoying it. We know that we learn best when we're enjoying things. So you've got to get that fine balance between enjoyment and yes, some competitiveness, but also understanding that children might be interested in different things. If we step back even further, you've got to ask the question, what is the point of education? And if you ask children this, why do you go to school? They say to learn. And then you ask them, what does learning mean? And they're stuck. They often don't know how to explain what learning is. And to me, I think that's a fundamental point to have and have with young people. So, what is learning? It's about acquiring new knowledge, new skills. And let's not forget that when we think about our students in the future, what skills are they going to need? Well, they are going to need to be problem solvers, creative thinkers. And if we're just sort of following a very linear path of education, whereby it's sort of like maths and English, or in your example, swimming, or whatever it might be, do an exam, move along, do an exam. So it's very binary. It's fail or succeed. Young people, and we know then it's going to impact their mental health and well-being. And I think if I give an example of my own family, that might be useful because I've got two girls, two completely different girls in their interests. My eldest loves theatre, dance, music, singing, the creative arts, and loves nothing better than being on show. She loves being on stage. And so she's followed through because we as parents, let's not forget, want our young people to be happy. So actually, I was really excited to see that Jessica wanted to do all these creative arts, and she went to university and got a first class honours degree in performing arts. Fantastic. And it's very likely now she wants to be a teacher because she wants to go and help other young students to think about how that really saved her when she was young because she struggled at school with some of the other academic subjects. She passed them, and that's great. But her real passion was creative arts. Fantastic. My youngest daughter loves theatre, has done GCSE drama, but can't think of anything worse about than being on stage. She does not want anyone to look at her, but she loves theatre. She loves music. She loves English literature. She loves all those things. And so what we've done as a family is make sure that she can be supported in doing the things that she wants to learn about. So she is going to do A levels, looking at theatre and English literature, but they're both happy, and I'm really proud of them. So to what extent then would you ever say that that's a failure or a success? That it's a success story.
Mm.
So it's a long-winded answer there, but I think I do notice that there is there is a competitive nature, probably more from what I've seen in the Indian schools I've been to. But then I worry about the well-being and mental health of our students. That's where I'll
Great.
come from. Yeah.
Amazing. So, John, one more thing, 90% of the brain of the child's brain get developed by the age of 5.
Mhm.
How important it is for the parents to give the child a peaceful, calm environment and to be a present parent. Since we both parents are working nowadays, mother is also working and father is also working.
Mm.
So we start compensating that time,
Mhm.
expensive gifts, toys, and maybe luxury travels. But
Mm.
then, how do you think that absenteeism as
Mm.
a person in child's life plays a,
Mm.
like how does that frame the child as a person, as a
Yeah.
child?
Yeah. Well, we know as a species we need to connect. We need connection to
Yeah,
feel a sense of validation and a sense of grounding and a sense of belonging.
yeah,
And if we remove that connection and substitute it with physical things, laptops, phones, you're missing out on a whole layer of fundamental basics that humans need to thrive and survive. And it's a challenge. It is a challenge because as working families and working parents, that's right. And we want to earn and we want to support our families and be the best we can be. But we've got to be absolutely mindful about how that could impact on our young people. I mean, going back to your sort of point there about what should families provide? Well, clearly love for their young person, without a doubt. Safety. It's all those Maslow's hierarchy of need, isn't it? It's warmth, it's safety, it's food, it's all of those things that we know humans need to thrive and a sense of belonging. And I think as a parent, one of the best tips I can probably give is talk lots to your child, show an interest in things, interact, and play. And by play, I mean it could be anything, can't it? But I think I love the idea of having 5 portions of fun a day, a little bit like having 5 portions of fruit or vegetables, having 5 portions of fun a day. If you can kind of use that as a kind of mantra and make sure you're having those opportunities to connect. And then I think as a parent, it's trying to enjoy the connection in sometimes the dull things in family life, like tidying up toys, cleaning, all of those kind of things. It's about that will provide connection and it will provide that young person
Yeah,
with that
I think you're
ability.
right. We should not be waiting for a particular activity to happen, like playing a particular Ludo game or something board game. Involve them in the daily task or something, like picking
Mm,
up toys together, making
mm.
making the bed together, or maybe something. Just
Yeah,
just involve them in the home chores, and maybe you feel connected. You don't have to
yeah,
particularly go and buy some games and toys for them. You just involve them. That's more
yeah,
important. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good
And I
thing.
and I and I yeah, and I sort of think that whole idea of just talking and sharing and having conversations. And I always think even as well as a young age, a very young age, sort of toddlers, there's the look when you look at toddlers and you have facial expressions, but also not sort of dumbing down the conversations you have with young children. So you might use complicated language. You might sort of ask them to sort of look at the stars and look at whatever, and you provide this sort of environment where there's sort of challenge in inverted commas, but it's natural and it's helping the understanding that actually we're learning together. Now, of course, this comes at the other side of, and you'll probably ask me a question around, so what if then you have the challenges of that, which is also another angle which is difficult. But yeah, you got to give your child a sense of belonging
Yeah,
without
sense
a
of
doubt. Yeah,
belonging. I
yeah.
think that's more important. Being
Mm, mm,
present. Yeah, it's not about the quantity of time. It's a
mm.
quality of that time that you invest. Even if you are present for 8 hours with the child and you're on your mobile phone scrolling down and you're watching reels, that's all making no sense. Even if you are physically
No,
present 100%. So
exactly.
talking about yeah, so talking about the major issue, screen time.
Mm.
I would not say that children are getting addicted to mobile phones. I think parents also are getting addicted to mobile phones and reels and scrolling shorts
Mm.
on YouTube, on Instagram. So, what do you think? What should be the one rule in the family for introducing children? It has
Mhm.
been proven in the study that children below 2 years should have zero screen time. But
Mhm.
when mothers and parents are having meetings or they're doing home chores, just
Mm.
to make the child sit at one place, they hand over the iPad or a mobile phone to watch Coco Melon or Miss Rachel or
Yeah.
something or the other thing, and then the child is enjoying while mother is finishing up with her task and all that is happening. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
how do we like curb that thing? Like the child should not be using any screen time, and but we have to do the
Yeah.
tasks are there. How should we manage that?
And I think this is a question that all families ask, isn't it? And I think it's asked all around the world.
Yeah,
There is absolutely, I think we all agree now, there is an addictive quality to screens. And by
yeah,
screens, I'm thinking laptops,
yeah.
mobile phones, not necessarily televisions, but the
Absolutely.
sort of the handheld devices that we use.
Yes.
Personally, I think from my experience, I would suggest that we know the trappings of mobile devices, and that is to say the negative effect it has on well-being, partly because of the dopamine hit that you get from being on a screen and all
Yeah.
of that, and how hard it is. So
Mhm.
the first thing I'd say is I wouldn't be giving a mobile phone to a child under 11. So 12 or 13, I would say, because I think it's just too early still. I think in England, of course, our children go to secondary school at 11 and 12 years old. So I think that's a reasonable age for more generally sort of keeping them safe as well, because there is an element of needing some device to perhaps keep in contact with your family. But to that end, whether you have a younger child with a device, it's so important to be involved in that as a parent from the beginning. Now, I'm not even answering your question to some extent because your question is around more general screen time. But I think it's important to say when we are using technology with children, as parents, we need to be involved in our child's online lives. And
Yeah.
that has to happen from day one. There needs to be an agreement that when we are providing our children with phones or whatever, part of the agreement is going to be that we, as parents, are going to be working with them on it, helping them, finding out what they're doing, talking about it, because we know that they will get into difficulties. And where else are they going to go when they do? Well, likely to their friends or other places. And we also need to be aware of, as I think I've spent many times saying when I've been to visit schools in India, making sure parental settings are in place and all of those things. But just to rewind to your point, I suppose, about screen time to children, we know that social media itself is a problem because that I think is anti-social media in many ways. But social media is a big issue for young people who and adults as well. You can't cognitively manage that. That's overload of information. So I would suggest that in terms of screen time, we know that you shouldn't really have any more than, if you were going to put a cap on it, no more than 2 hours a day for older children. Now, that
Yeah.
sounds a lot, but if you start to include television, whatever it might be for that, if you're starting to drift over that, I think there would be a concern. But I think as parents, we need to model that
Yeah.
because how often do we see parents with their children, but walking around with a mobile phone in their hand and maybe not even communicating with their children? So, what message does that give? We've got to practice what we preach to our young
Rather than
people.
taking mobile phones to kitchen, to washrooms, to walk, and to wherever you're going, just limit that first because you have to model that before
Yes.
expecting. So I have a son who's 6 years old, and his screen time is 30 minutes in a day. And
Hmm.
that too, I watch the content that he's watching. For example, it's only a television, it's a big screen that he can watch and not
Yep.
mobile phones by himself. He has zero
Mhm.
screen time on mobile phones.
Good.
So for the content that he's watching on the big screen, I
Mm.
play that content and take the remote with me. I still
Mm.
have it somewhere.
Mm.
Look, I still have the remote with me. So I play the content and
Mm.
then I say like it's safe content and then I
Mm.
take the remote and after 30 minutes are over, I switch off the TV. So that's the deadline.
Mhm.
The only thing that you can watch on the TV. I think it's
Mm.
very important for children to understand that it's not allowed and
Mhm.
cannot go beyond a line. So setting boundaries,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
health boundaries, is very important. That
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And I think we can absolutely relate that, can't we, to anything like eyesight, for example, or challenges with eyesight or listening. It's a health side of things as well. So we need to make sure that we're explaining that to our young people as well.
I think when they stick to a television,
Mm.
they stop listening. Like they go numb into television. Like they are so focused.
Hmm.
They don't want to move their eyes or they don't want to drink or eat anything. They just
Mm.
engrossed in the television. So that's
Yeah.
really dangerous. But to the extent, even if you're working, even if you're a homemaker, whatever it is, your
Mm.
child is your responsibility. His well-being, her well-being is your responsibility. So come what
Yeah.
may, if we
Yes.
have to take the charge of the situation and make sure that we are not doing it or it's not happening with them.
Yeah. And research shows that we tend to blink less when we're on screens as well. So if you think about the physical consequences of screens, actually we sort of have to remind ourselves to blink. Or
Yeah.
at least the 20-20-20 rule of every 20 minutes looking 20 feet or 20 meters away and spending 20 seconds not looking at the screen. There's lots of things you need to do, but when you start, I think you just need to be honest with your children about the joy it brings, and actually you can celebrate that. I love watching a film, I love watching this and things, but the reason why we're not going to do anymore is because of this, that, and the other. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
important.
I don't think that content or screen watching is a bad thing, but
No.
I think how you watch it and what you watch is important.
I
Because
agree.
a lot of things, because if I play National Geographic channel, I learn a lot of things from that
Mm,
channel. But if I'm watching Peppa Pig or something like that,
yeah.
I may be learning, I might not be learning. And sometimes, John, I want to express that I'm not sure if you are aware of it or not, but in the mainstream of Peppa Pig and very popular these cartoon channels now,
Mhm.
they introduce very vulgar content uh,
Mm,
to provoke children. So
mm.
that is also very triggering for parents to watch what's coming on the screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
for me, YouTube is a complete no-no. Only I
Mhm.
do Netflix and that too for a child Netflix and then we watch it. So
Yeah.
it's very important that should be careful on what our children are watching actually.
Yeah, and I think also, as we know nowadays, a lot of the content in terms of cartoons is so fast-paced and quick.
True.
And I remember as a parent, I was very keen to, if we were going to watch something together, which we did, it would be something a little bit more slower because otherwise it's so quick, so quick. The cartoon, the colors, the light, the brightness, the speed of the story, the narrative, it's so mesmerizing. It's almost like being hypnotized. So I always sort of very selective about what those programs might be. And you can, as a parent, search them yourself. Some are more and better for cognitive development
That's
than
so
others.
important. That's
Okay.
a very important point that you have mentioned. Yes. What you're watching, the fast-paced content does impact the cognitive development
Mm,
because they're so full of colors, they're so full of
mm.
everything that the child get engrossed in the content so much and stop thinking.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
example, the cocoa melon has been proven like they cut and do edits to it so that the childs are getting engrossed from
Yeah.
zero age to age 7, 8, 9, 10. So yes, it is very important. For example, Bluey for that matter, I'm not sure if you're aware of.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Blue is one which has been recommended to watch because he's very kind, he's very generous, he shows a lot of gratitude. The mother is teaching a lot of stuff. So
Mm.
watch. I think proper research on the content is important before allowing the children to watch it. So
Yeah.
thank you
Because
so much.
there's
Yeah.
no time to think, is there sometimes? There's no time to think. You're just being given information all the time and you just need to just slow down a bit, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last question I want to ask you, because nowadays, after this pandemic happened,
Mm.
COVID-19, the
Mm.
focus and concentration really got impacted, especially in the young children.
Mm.
And now hyperactivity and ADHD is also picking up.
Hmm.
So, are the schools should the schools be like doing inclusive education, and how do you like how does your management deal with hyperactive children in the school?
Mm. Well, that's a really good question. And actually, people will spend years, won't they, studying, as you have, this very issue. I think schools should, and I think, well, do, hopefully, understand the range of neurodiverse needs and understanding that it's not binary and there may well be a sort of shade to this. And I think initially, when you start to understand that and the fact that people, all people, learn in different ways, you need to make sure that you are scaffolding your learning in schools to provide the same outcomes for every child. Some children might need some challenging, some children might need some scaffolding. And I think there's an absolute awareness, and certainly in the United Kingdom, this is so, that actually special educational needs, whatever that might look like, is something to be celebrated. Potentially, you could call it a superpower in some ways. If we think of all the most successful people, probably in any business or industry, they all have all got some neurodiverse need in some capacity because that's how it's made, that's enabled them to think in certain ways. So we should not see this as barriers. We should be accepting. And I think it's difficult probably for parents because often we just see the behavior, we see the output, as opposed to we see it might be a difficulty, a challenge, a nuisance, it's behavior. But then when we what is how does learning happen? It comes back to your first question and find ways to help all people learn, then we can start to have success and not have barriers. But you're absolutely right. There has been certainly, I say an increase, but I think it's perhaps more a noticeable increase in awareness, which because we have all been, we're all people. Perhaps yes, there is an element of young people who've been maybe socially excluded through the pandemic, who've got difficulties with social interaction, all those things. So that is part of this because in the formative years they might have missed out on some of that sort of cognitive development. But I think we're now aware of it more. But conversely, we've got to be careful not to just label. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be understanding. And yes, there may be a need to get diagnoses, fine. But I think we as parents and educators need to work really closely together and think, okay, so this is my child, this is how they learn best. We have the same aspirations for all our children. So how can we help them to get there? It might be that path, it might be that path. But you've certainly had a lot of experience of that, I know.
I think the society should be judging less. Every
Mm,
child is unique and they may be competent in one thing, may not be in another thing. But let's
mhm,
focus on their strengths rather than on their weaknesses, and especially parents. When
mm,
parents starts labeling their own child, no, he's very hyper, no, he doesn't concentrate and focus. No, he doesn't
mhm.
want to. If I give you something to study which you do not like, will you do that? No, you will not.
Yeah,
So let's figure
yeah,
out what the child wants to do. For example, if
yeah,
somebody asks me to go to kitchen and prepare a particular dish that I do not like, I will not do that. Maybe if I'll do, I will not do it at my best. So let's
yeah,
not push each other, especially children.
yeah,
If they do not want to do that, a particular
yeah,
thing, maybe they are doing that particular thing in a different way. Figure out that way.
yeah.
I think that's more important.
And how often, as parents, or how often do teachers perhaps, when you have a child who's fidgeting, you say, sit still.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we need. I know that when I'm presenting or doing a workshop, I need to have almost something in my hand. It might be a pen or something. And it's interesting because I've reflected on this a few years ago and I thought, I feel like not grounded if I don't have anything in my hands. Sometimes it's one of those remotes, whatever. But I think it's interesting. For me, I feel a sense of connection, grounding, and security with that. So in the classroom, when I've got a child who might be rocking on their chair, we
Yeah,
could say,
I
stop.
know.
But what I say to the child is, actually, would you like to just walk around the back of the room? That's fine. It's fine. We've
Yeah.
got some children who stand up in the class. Some children have got desks that are standing up with places they can write. Rather than say sit still, which is going to probably end up with some
That's so
difficulties.
beautiful. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
we should redesign the classrooms to make
yeah,
everybody inclusive.
yeah,
Somebody doesn't want to sit, doesn't want to sit. I remember when I was child, I never wanted to sit in my class. I always wanted to
really.
stand and write.
Yeah,
That time I never had an option. So
yeah,
I never liked writing. So maybe
yeah.
that could be the case. Maybe we can make schools and, homes more friendly for the children.
Yeah, I think we've gone further now from just thinking that children learn either visually, orally, or kinesthetically. I think that was a useful introduction to sort of how people learn. But I think now we have to start to look a little bit more at learning behaviors and
Right.
sort of switch it around the other way. So if I'm going into a classroom, I don't watch what the teacher's doing, I watch what the students are doing, because I think actually we need to see how are we helping young people to get information out of their heads, really, rather than just keep putting information in. And if it means they have to stand or move or be physical or fine, fine.
It's
It's like,
fine.
why would that be a problem? Yeah, it's fine. So I think we need to be aware of that. And as parents, aware that actually, and conversely, it goes against the grain of saying sit down with a device, doesn't it? Because that, again, is counterintuitive. But it might be, you're moving around more. You've got to have fidgets and do things. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think we are on a really positive step with this, I
Yeah.
think, what I
Okay,
can see.
John. So we are wrapping this up, but then I can talk and talk for
Yeah,
on.
that's fine.
We are
Yeah.
wrapping this up with you, and I really had a good time. Anything in specific that you wish to ask or wish to mention about the episode, then I would appreciate that.
Well, that's amazing. I appreciate everything you're doing. It was really interesting to have this conversation. And I think we're on the same wavelength, which is amazing.
Yeah, thanks, John, and hope to see you again when you visit India this time. And
Amazing.
lovely for sharing your insight with us at our Holistic Parenting Podcast. And I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people who will be watching this podcast will have a lot of insights and
Mm.
it will make a difference, little bit or more, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
definitely, hit their brain and mind somewhere. Like all children are unique. It's just that you
Mm.
figure out what is the best thing working for them.
Mm. Agreed. And I think, yeah, I'd love to connect and keep connecting. So that's fantastic. Yeah. Love to see you. Be great.
Hello, parents. If you find our podcast relatable, educational, then do subscribe to our channel. In the comment box, write your parenting challenges. We'll try to address them one by one. And never forget to share it with amazing parents like you. Because remember, by learning together, we can raise kind, confident, and connected children for happy families and happy nations.